Hello, my wonderful students. Today we will discuss about nutrition in plants. Before we start this session, I would like to get into this solve the mystery mode. Let's see what the mystery is about. So it is kind of like a story. Read it for yourself and understand it. So my dear students, the story is, once upon a time, there was a lion. He was the king of the jungle. He could eat any animal he wanted. He was living happily in his jungle when one day tragedy struck. All the trees died. The lion could not see a tree in sight. So students, it is a very simple story. As there was a lion, he was the king of the jungle. He used to eat any animal he wanted, all right? But one day what happened? Tragedy struck, and that the trees just went away, as there was no tree in sight at all. So students, let's see what exactly happened. What exactly is the mystery element that we are going to solve? So what is the mystery element we are going to solve? Let's see. So that was the story. And this is the conclusion. This is what exactly happens after a month. Now we have to understand why exactly lion ended up dying. Can anybody guess it? What was the reason behind dying of lion? Let's try and understand what exactly happens. So here you can see, students, there is chain kind of things happening here. You can see there is a lion, fox, there is a cute rabbit, and there is of course carrot. Now students, lion's favorite meal is actually a fox, and lion used to love to eat fox, and fox loved to eat a rabbit. And all of us know that rabbit loves to eat what? Carrot. Rabbit loves to eat carrot the most. But students, where exactly carrots come from? Can anybody tell me, or can anybody guess where exactly carrot comes from? So, yes, whatever you are thinking in your mind, that is correct, my dear students. Carrot comes from plants. Let's look at it once again. Let's look at the chain. So students, if plants are not there, then carrots do not exist, right? Then if carrots do not exist, then you won't have rabbit who loves to eat carrots. And if rabbit don't exist, then what? Then fox will have nothing to eat. And if fox have nothing to eat, then what? Fox will die? Yeah, fox obviously will die if fox do not have anything to eat. And if the fox dies, then what? Lion will have nothing to eat. So we can relate, if carrots would not be there, then none of the animal will able to exist on plant earth, right? This is how important plants are for us. Not just carrot, but every plant or every flora that is present on earth. So we get all the nutrients actually from a plant. Why, students, we get all the nutrients from a plant? Because plants are able to make their food and we cannot we can cook food that we get from plants or other animals, but we cannot actually make our own food. So, dear students, what is the moral of the story? So, the moral of the story is that if plants do not exist, then we would not able to exist as well. Not just us, but all the animals that live around. Alright, let's move on. This whole process of taking in food and using it for energy, it is actually called nutrition. Now this is a very scientific definition that you will definitely find in your books. Let's try to understand plants first, because plants actually end up making their food, but we don't. We saw as lion dies, just the same all the plant vanished away and we will not able to exist. Mode of nutrition in plant, students, is basically self-nourishment. What it is? It is self-nourishment. Plants have a very self-nourishment system. So when I say self-nourishment, then I mean to say is that they are basically able to make their own food, or they can able to nourish their own bodies. So now self and nourishment has a little bit of scientific term, students. As self we have auto, and for nourishment we have trops. So when we conclude auto and trops together, we get autotrophs. Plants actually has autotrophic nutrition. So this is the mode of nutrition in which all living organisms are able to make their own food using very simple substances. As you all can see in the diagram, they use very simple substances like carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, soil to make their food, right? While we derive food from other animals or plants. So my dear students, this mode of nutrition is known as autotrophic nutrition, or we can say autotrophy. See, what a plant actually called? They are called as autotrophs. That means plants can actually nourish themselves. Animals depend on other animals or plant for food. It is very natural, students. We cannot make our own food. We almost or always depend on plants or other animals. Why we always depend on plants or other animals? Because we are getting nourishment for others. We are getting nourishment from other plants, right? From plants and other animals. So students, there is a very scientific term that is hetero, which means others, and trops, which means nourishment. So when you get nourishment from others, it is known as heterotrophs. I think now it is very much clear to everyone what are heterotrophs and what are autotrophs. So heterotrophic nutrition is the nutrition in which living organisms actually depend upon other animals or plants, right, for their food needs. When we consume food, we gain energy. Yeah, obviously students, when we consume food, what we gain? We gain energy. So students, I think it is clear now what are autotrophic nutrition and what are heterotrophic nutrition. As you can now see from the diagram, it specifies very clearly. Yeah. We are not going to talk about your kitchen, but we are going to talking about plants' kitchen, where they make their own amazing, awesome food, which also provides energy to us in return. Let's try to understand photosynthesis. Now this whole world we are going to break down little bit later. But we are going to understand, students, the whole process of photosynthesis in the form of recipe, right? We will understand what is photosynthesis in the form of a recipe. So let's start. So where is it actually happening? It is happening in the kitchen of the plant. And kitchen of the plant is in the leaf. So where is kitchen of the plant? It is in the leaves. And students, all the action that goes on happens in the leaf. Food is prepared in the leaves for every plant. And students, plants are actually making carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is basically a form of a glucose. If you don't know what is carbohydrates, so students, carbohydrate is basically a form of a glucose. And then what is another word? There is another thing that comes across as ingredient. As ingredient is everything that goes into the dish. So in photosynthesis, we all require lot of ingredient. Let's try to read them together. The new ingredient that are required in photosynthesis are water, minerals, carbon dioxide, chlorophyll, and sunlight. So from where these ingredients comes from? So where does these all ingredients comes from, students? So yes, these ingredients are coming from specific places. Let's try to answer where they are delivered from. So water and mineral actually deliver from soil. The mineral, vitamins and nutrients which are required by the plants dissolve in the water, and water is carried up to the leaf. So in this way, water and mineral actually deliver from soil. Next we come up as carbon dioxide is present in the air around us all the time. We know that. So carbon dioxide is coming from, where does it come from? It comes from air. Thirdly, chlorophyll. If we talk about chlorophyll, students, then chlorophyll is already present in the leaves. How it is already present in the leaves? It is actually the green pigment that is present in the plants, which gives classic green color to the leaves. So chlorophyll is very important for photosynthesis. It actually helps to capture the sunlight. Next, we see there is sunlight. Obviously, try to understand who or which part of the plant is actually working to deliver ingredient for the process of photosynthesis. So the first delivery boy is stomata. As you can see, there are two beam-like structure. There is stomata in the middle. Now the guard cell actually contract and expand. So when carbon dioxide come in, they contract. When oxygen goes out later, it expands. The next delivery boy is vessels. They are basically like straws. They are tiny, tiny, thin, thread-like straw which are present inside the stem, which actually carry water and mineral up to the leaf. Now let's try where does chlorophyll and sunlight comes from. So leaves deliver chlorophyll. They naturally have chlorophyll in them. And how does it capture sunlight? So chlorophyll actually captures sunlight. So there is meaning behind breaking down photosynthesis. There is what exactly it is. So photosynthesis means to prepare. Now photosynthesis, which cannot happen without sunlight unless the light is there.
Nutrition in plants. Nutrition in plants. All the living organisms require food. The organisms need to take food to obtain energy, to obtain material for growth, and to obtain materials for the repairs of damaged parts of body. The process of taking food by an organism as well as the utilization of this food by the organism is called nutrition. Modes of nutrition. All the organisms can be divided into two main groups. 1. Autotrophs. 2. Heterotrophs. Autotroph. Those organisms which can make food themselves from simple substances like carbon dioxide and water by the process of photosynthesis are called autotrophs, and their mode of nutrition is called autotrophic. For example, green plants. Heterotroph. Those organisms which cannot make food themselves by the process of photosynthesis and take food from green plants or animals are called heterotrophs, and their mode of nutrition is called heterotrophic. All the non-green plants and animals, including human beings, are heterotrophs. Photosynthesis. The process by which green plants make their own food, like glucose from carbon dioxide and water by using sunlight energy in the presence of chlorophyll, is called photosynthesis. In this process, the plants take carbon dioxide gas needed for photosynthesis from the air through the tiny pores called stomata present on the surface of leaves. Each pore is surrounded by a pair of guard cells. The opening and closing of stomatal pores in the leaves is controlled by the guard cells. The carbon dioxide gas present in air enters the leaves of a plant through the stomatal pores present on their surface, and the plants take water needed for photosynthesis from the soil. Soil always contains some water in it. Water present in the soil is absorbed by the roots of a plant and then transported to the leaves through the vessels which run like interconnected pipes throughout the roots, stem, branches and leaves. The tiny pipe-like vessels which transport water from the roots of a plant to its leaves are called xylem. Chlorophyll is a green substance which is present in the leaves of plants. In fact, it is in the presence of chlorophyll that plants absorb the energy from sunlight.
That's all for today. We will continue. Thank you, students.